Here for you live on WagerTalk TV, and I'm broadcasting live from the Eagles Den. That's right. If you think I was a homer before, now just look at what's behind me. I mean, we're still living on the Super Bowl train there. But don't worry, you're not just here to hear me espouse Philadelphia jargon. No, we got a great show lined up for you. It's your final chance to get some winners, and that's what we're going to aim to do here on the program with you live. Coming up and joining me, I got Ross Benjamin talking some MLB, one of the best in the biz to do it. Carmine Bianco is going to be breaking down some soccer or football, depending on wherever you're tuning in from. But we're going to talk some Olympic soccer with him and also some Leagues Cup, a little MLS break, getting some action going. Carm's got a best bet coming up in Tigres versus Inter Miami. Should be a hell of a good one. And then Steve Merril, batting cleanup for us, going to run down any of the games that Ross doesn't get to on this MLB slate. So you'll be ready to rock and roll in baseball. And if you have some questions along the way, we'll be rocking with them. We still have some UFC experts. If you have any thoughts on that, I can pull up some of those pages for you as well. But we got a great show coming your way. And I say we get right into it because out of the gate, Ross is doing the work for the chat. They're saying, what is all this Philadelphia garbage behind that guy, Ross? We got to talk Phillies and Mariners, and somebody's got to knock this guy down a few pegs. Ross, first things first, man, pleasure to be here with you. Love doing the shows with you when you were on Sports Memo. You got called up to the big leagues, and you've been killing it with Wager Talk. So we're happy to have you here, brother. And let's talk some Phils and Mariners out of the gate here on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And thank you for having me once again, Dan. And it's an absolute honor to be amongst the world-class sports betting experts over at Wager Talk. So let's get right to it. Phillies and the Mariners. And we're looking at right now the Mariners are a minus 120 money line home favorite in this game. And the starting pitchers for the Mariners, it will be Bryce Miller. And for the Phillies, I had to make an adjustment here because they had overnight listing with Kobe Ellard scheduled to go. But it will be Orion Kerkering. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Nailed it.
In any event. Yeah, all right. So here's the thing with Kerkering. He's made 41 appearances this year, but only one start. And he's only averaging a little less than 1 inning pitch per start. So obviously the Phillies have decided today they're going to go bullpen by committee. And that could be problematic for your Phillies, Dan, because the Phillies bullpen since July to 1st, man, oh man, buddy, 5.93 ERA, a 1.42 WHIP. And what's up with the Phillies, my man? They've lost 5 straight. They've lost 7 of their last 8. And they're going to be going up against Bryce Miller and the Seattle Mariners. Bryce Miller's last 3 starts has been lights out with a 1.40 ERA and 0.78 WHIP. He's been much better at night than during the day this year. 11 starts at night with a 1.88 ERA and 0.88 WHIP, and just shy of a 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. The Seattle has been in a power surge of late, as they've hit 20 home runs in their last 13 games. And that's noteworthy because I mentioned the Phillies bullpen and the struggles they've had since July the 1st. Well, during that time, the Phillies are 29th in baseball when it comes to bullpens allowing home runs per 9 innings pitched. The Phillies bullpen, how about this? 1.75 home runs per 9 innings pitched since July the 1st. And that's absolutely brutal. I'm going to go with Seattle here, much to your chagrin, Dan, minus 120 over the Philadelphia Phillies. And by the way, the Mariners off a 10-2 win last night. And I'm not saying that to rub salt in the wound, but they're 3-0 at home this year after scoring 9 or more runs in their previous games. So, yep, Seattle minus 120, Dan.
Yeah, and honestly, Ross, I would love to say much to my chagrin, but I'll be honest with you, I've been one of the few people probably in the Philadelphia metropolitan area that's been making money fading this Phil's team. I kept saying they're peaking too early. People were like, no, look at the bats. The pitching picks it up. So this is something that I kind of saw coming for a while, and it's been something that you've been able to capitalize on. I'm wondering, though, Ross, before we get to your next game here and we roll into here with some questions, as I'm hearing you talking there, I know that maybe we worry about how much Philadelphia will contribute, but with that total sitting at 8, This is Mariners and an over look. Don't you think? I mean, they cashed the over by themselves last night with how this pitching is, and hearing your breakdown, you get that back end of the bullpen. It's not like we love Kirkland coming up here on the mound to start. So, do we just isolate Seattle team total, or the way that you just hit it was, hey, it's not that crazy of juice since we're getting them on the road here. Why not just lay that minus 120? Any thoughts at all on this total before we roll to the next one? Because it just seems low.
And it's a good observation, a great observation at that. The only thing that bothers me is, I just mentioned Seattle coming off a game last night. They scored 10 runs. And if you look at the Mariners, again, going back to July the 1st and actually all year long, one thing they've really struggled at is producing offense on a consistent basis. So that's what scares me there. Yeah, the Philadelphia bullpen, if you're doing it by committee, it's – Kirkgreen's not actually, his ERA is 2.61 for the year. But again, he's averaging less than an inning per game. So we're going to depend on the Philadelphia bullpen the whole way. But that's the thing that scares me a little. And that Bryce Miller, he's put up terrific numbers of late. So if I was to lean the total, I would lean a little more towards Seattle over their team total rather than the game total itself. But I really don't like the total in this game.
Yeah, all right. Well, then I won't force you to make a play on the total. Let's talk a game that you do have slated in for a total play. Hey, Ross, you know how the commenters are. If this thing wins and Seattle is team total over, you're going to be the best handicapper in the world. And then when you just talk about a lean, they're going to be like, Ross told me this game was going over. So I know the game, Ross. Don't worry, brother. I got you. No foot to the fire there. But you do have some thoughts here on the total when the Giants and Reds are facing off at the Great American Ballpark tonight. It's Harrison, it's Green. And this one, talk about key numbers. There is a few more key in baseball than that ever-loving 9. And we're seeing some different juice changes on this one. So it may not be sitting at 9 for long. Thoughts on the total with Harrison and Green on the bump here today. This one going at 7:15, Ross.
Yeah, well, let's start with Hunter Green for the Reds. I mean, quietly, he's put together a nice string of starts over his last 5 starts, a 0.33 ERA and 0.63 WHIP. Yes, he's averaging just a little over 5 innings pitched, which isn't a lot, but still, it's a noteworthy item. Now, remember, Great American Ballpark, which is known as a hitter's ballpark, really wasn't last night because the Cincinnati Reds were shut out, not only shut out, but no hit by Blake Snell and the San Francisco Giants last night. You know what? Here's the thing. In terms of teams being no hit, you'd be surprised to know that, no, you wouldn't be surprised to know. I shouldn't say that. But since 2007, away teams that were no hit in their previous game have played 22-14 to the under, which is 61.1%. And even tightening up that even more, if they're playing the same team that no hit them in the previous game, they're 6-0 to the under since 2022 with a combined average of 5.7 runs per game. So these teams that get no hit tend to play under in the next game, which would logically make sense. And also, this is a Cincinnati team. Their bullpen is their on base percentage, 294 since July the 1st and 225 for a team batting average. So being no hit last night, it's always a surprise when a team gets no hit, but they've shown a tendency or a trend of late to not produce a lot of offense. The Cincinnati bullpen, in compliment to Hunter Green, who I mentioned, only over 5 innings, a little over 5 innings pitched per start. 3.24 ERA. Kyle Harrison on the mound for the Giants. His last 3 starts have been terrific. 1.06 ERA, 0.82 WHIP. San Francisco bullpen, respectable 3.87 ERA, 1.26 WHIP since the All-Star break. And also, this is a San Francisco team that's not exactly tearing the cover off the ball, averaging just less than 4 runs per game since the All-Star break, and with a 2.32 team batting average and 306 on base percentage. Not very good. So I'm going to go under here. It's a big number. The Giants have gone under in their last 4 on the road when the total's been 9 or less, which it is right now. Cincinnati's played 20, 11, and 3 to the under in their last 34 at home when the totals 9 or less. So I'm going to go San Francisco, Cincinnati, under 9.
Looking at the under 9, says our man Ross Benjamin. We're going to get rolling with a couple of these questions. We got some folks asking about a potential Yankees team total. Get Ross and I's thoughts on that one. He's also looking at Hunter Green hits under 4.5. So that kind of correlates with what you're looking at, Ross, taking Hunter Green to not allow many hits coming across there from the bats of the San Francisco Giants. Good stuff there from our man Richie Lockhart. We'll get to the other part of his question here on the Yankees. But first, Ross, tell folks what they can find locked and loaded over at your page this week. I mean, people talk about the dog days of summer, man. Baseball's still rolling on. We had that Hall of Fame, we'll call it game, since everything got graded as a non-wager, since we didn't get to 55 minutes. But football is right around the corner, and there will be plenty more games to choose from. So this is a great time to partner with you over at WagerTalk. Tell the folks why.
Yeah, well, last year, as rated amongst the 34 great handicappers, and I mean fantastic handicappers over at WagerTalk, I ranked number 2 in money earned last year, combined college football and the NFL. And you can get my college football NFL annual package right now, folks, for just $777. It's over a $400 value. And when you purchase that package, we're going to throw in Major League Baseball absolutely free right through the World Series. And why is Major League Baseball a key item? 6-2 run over the last 7 days in Major League Baseball. Not a high volume, but cashing at a high rate. And also, since August 4th of last year, almost 365 days to exactly, and up $5,500 in Major League Baseball since last year. So rolling right along with Major League Baseball, NFL, and college football, very good. And also, folks, don't forget, right now you can get 3 months for the price of 2. $588 will get you right through the month of August. So a lot of great stuff. And my streaks are up there on my homepage, which is wt.buzz/RB. A lot of good streaks to take a look at there, too. It's about money, making money over the long haul, Dan. I don't post short-term streaks. It's all long-term streaks. So.
Oh, yeah, because, hey, much like the Phillies and much like this Yankees team that we're going to talk about here, Ross, it is all about the streaks. And unfortunately, for those two ball clubs, the streaks have not been kind to either of them. We had Rich Lockhart asking about a Yankees team total. That's the thing is, two teams who were absolute locks. Everyone was loving the Yankees early on in the season. You could just print ATM money with the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, both of these teams going the wrong way. Yankees 6-16 in their past 22 home games. So home, not so sweet home, and kind of continued with that 8-5 loss last night against the Blue Jays. They'll have a chance to have a short memory here, Ross, as they are going to be competing. This is an early game. This one coming your way right around 1:15. So this is an early start for you. He's asking specifically, I guess, about the Yankees team total, whether you think it's worth looking over, whether looking under. But regardless, it's an intriguing matchup because you got Berrios and Rodon there on the bump. But the price on the Yankees, I get it. Bounce back spot, wanting the chance for him there. I can't lay almost $2 bills with the Yankees right now. What do you make of this game, Ross?
I don't lay $2 bills with anybody. It's
that's a good point.
You don't need me for that. Look, if you lose this game, you got to win the next 3 to be at a profit. That's not true. Smart sports betting. If anything, if you like the Yankees at that number, I would lean more toward laying a 1.5 on the run line. But even then, you just mentioned their home mark of 6-16 over the last 22. Which doesn't bode for a lot of confidence. Here's the thing. I guess he's asking about the Yankees team total, which is very high at 5.5. And for good reason. I mean, look at you say what you will about the Yankees of late, but all of a sudden their bats have really woke up. And, Stanton back in the lineup. And then they bring the kid Chisholm over from Miami. He's added some punch to the lineup as well. Some guys are starting to come on now, namely LeMahieu and also the kid at shortstop, Volpe, off a nice game last night. So, yeah, the over 5.5 is intriguing. It's not something I'm willing to tap into, But if you put the proverbial gun to my head, and with Jose Barrios on the mound, he's coming off a good outing, but he's been very erratic this year. And that was his best outing in a long time in his previous start. And against a team like the Yankees right now that's putting up big numbers offensively recently, I would lean to the over 5.5 if I was to do the team total in this game.
All right, Ross, since we did talk about the fact you do have plays that people can lock in that are premium plays, I won't make you run down the whole baseball card, but we do have a loyal viewer who's asking one more question here, and then we'll swing it to some soccer talk with our man Carmine. Bianco, you have any questions about some Olympic sports betting or Leagues Cup? Get them coming, and we'll touch them upon with my man Carmine. Titan CT, loyal viewer, and shout out to the chat, Richie Lockhart, Mac Hudson, Brian Godwin. Wherever you're tuning in, hit that like button, hit subscribe. It's a great way to say thank you to these guys before you head on over to WagerTalk and lock in some long-term all access. But Titan CT, one of the games he said he likes, I don't know if it's that crazy of a hot take to say you like the Brewers over the Nationals, but that's the way that he's looking at Savali and it's hers. And if you just look at hers kind of splits, I don't know how you get very excited about him on the bump, but the price, when you factor that in, it does seem cheap here on the road team at Nationals Park. Brewers, Nats, any thoughts for you on that one, Ross, before we send you on your way to enjoy your Saturday? Cash some tickets, man.
Yeah, the Brewers would seem like the logical play. And you mentioned her.
That's what worries me. That's what it seems too easy, right?
Yeah, and when it seems too easy, it very rarely is. And you're looking at the Brewers opening at -135. They're now anywhere from I'm looking at some places 115 and 120. So that line has actually came back the other way, despite the fact the Brewers getting most of the money in this game. Yeah, so it's a reverse line movement, which leads me to believe there's some sharp money going to Washington. This is a game, if you're not willing to go with the reverse line move and go against what seems to be the blatantly obvious play, which would be going with Washington, then I would just stay away from the game. And I'm not willing to back Hurts in this situation. I'm certainly not going to be willing to back Milwaukee. I think there's a lot better value on the board than this game itself.
That's Ross Benjamin. WT.buzz/RB is where you can find them. Shout out on Twitter to him, too, when he cashes some tickets for you, at Ross Benjamin1. But, Ross, thanks for taking time out of your Saturday morning, man. Best of luck here this evening, and we'll see you next time on the show, brother. Have a great one.
I'd look forward to it, Dan. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, that was a throwback. If you haven't been here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, Ross and I used to do the Sports Memo Today show. That's right. Ross, I'd like to say I taught him everything he knows, but really Ross made me a better handicapper on that show. So I can't take full credit, but I can take full credit whenever you guys enjoy the Puck Time show. It's not because of the hosts. It's not because of Andrew and Carmine. Carm, you would admit, it's because the producer behind the scenes, right? Good old Dan Alexander. You can't forget about him. Carm, welcome in. We got Leagues Cup soccer coming up. So a little teaser there for Puck Time, but that's a ways away. You still have your crown to defend in NFL action before that. How we doing, Carmine?
I'm looking forward to it. Dan, if I could just get you to shift a little to your right so your head is completely blocking that Eagles championship banner.
Oh, sorry. You meant stage right.
Much better.
Stage right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, stage right. So I'm
we'll
doing
get the
well.
Bills
Hey,
one
listen,
up eventually, Carm. We'll get the Bills one up eventually.
Yeah. We'll eventually kick one through the uprights to win a game instead of wide right. That phrase still haunts me. But it's the pox of being a Bills fan, Dan. But I'm looking forward to NFL season. But it is still football season, a different kind of football, as you mentioned. The Olympics are going on right now, and just before we went to air, Dan, what did I say to you? If I take the draw in extra time, bet the U.S. because they will win. And of course, Trinity Rodman scores the go-ahead goal for the U.S. in the 107th minute. Trinity, that's like, isn't that the girl's name from The Matrix? Trinity,
The Matrix,
sure.
yes.
Trinity. So
yes. It's more popular from the
seen
Matrix than the Holy Trinity, Carmine. Yeah, it's from the
the
Matrix,
Holy
right?
Trinity.
It's from the
Yes,
Matrix, right?
that's where
All right.
that's it's got to be. So let's get to it.
All right, Carmine. So let's talk some. We'll start with some Olympic soccer. And guys, Carmine is an expert. When I ask soccer questions, the dude who I go to is Carmine. I actually have done a show doing MLS talk. And before I could run, I had to learn to walk. And Carmine was the one teaching me how to walk in soccer betting. I didn't used to know what a quarter goal and a handy half of a goal or what any of it meant. Carmine taught me all of it. So this guy is a wealth of information. If you have novice questions up to high level questions, shoot him Carmine's way. He's a great soccer handicapper and a great guy explaining how this soccer betting works as well. But we'll go back to the women's soccer that, to your chagrin, my USA women are rolling. Canada and Germany is the game that you want to break down. This is a quarterfinal matchup there in Paris. So, Carmine, floor is yours. How are we looking to bet this one? Are we going full on homer? I mean, the Canada women's national team's pretty damn good, so it wouldn't be that wild. But how are you looking to bet this game high level and some plays you might be locking in here for the folks?
Yeah, this one's I'm not going full homer on it. We might get a sprinkle on it
Just a little
when I'm done
sprinkle
with
of
this,
homer,
but
yeah.
a little sprinkle on it. But when the line came up with this, it was somewhat confusing. And there's a lot of volatile lines in the Olympics, especially you look at the USA today. Yesterday they opened at 159. They closed at minus 250. That is a huge swing in the money line. Spain, similar. Their game is closing line value didn't work great in the USA game. It's not working great in the Spain game because they're down 1-0. They opened up at 320 and they closed at 450. So those are huge swings. This is one that really hasn't moved, but I'm a little puzzled by why Germany is a favorite, not just a favorite in this one. They should be the favorite, but not at this line. This should be plus money across the board. Germany's minus 105. I'm seeing at some books right now. And you got to look at it. This is a Canada team that they could have just packed up and gone home when FIFA gave them a 6-point penalty for the whole drone incident, flying a couple drones over New Zealand's training sessions. That put them in a position where they had to win all three games, basically all three games in the group stages, and they did. They beat New Zealand, then they beat France, who were one of the tournament favorites in this one, and then beat Colombia in the final game. The team has only allowed a couple of goals. They're the defending gold medal champions, and it's a team that plays so well together and all year long. They normally give the US a hard time. And those are the two teams that people normally look at, teams like Canada and the US in these tournaments to go deep. So for them to be this much of a dog surprises me, but I'm more in tune with looking at the goal line on this one. You can take on the two-way handicap, you can take Canada plus half a goal. And if you get a similar situation as what unfolded early this morning with the USA Japan game, where it goes to 90, it's tied after 90 minutes. Your bet's a winner when they go to extra time. So it doesn't matter what happens after that. If you've got Canada plus a half a goal, and I think that's the right play here,
Okay.
you've got a great chance of cashing that ticket. Dan, the thing I look at, the Canada group, I think was much tougher than the one that Germany came out of. Germany had one solid team in that in their group, and that was the USA, and the USA beat them 4-1. Germany ran all over Zambia, but everyone ran over Zambia. I think Zambia had one game where there was 11 goals and they blew a 5-2 lead. Germany beat them 4-1. USA beat them 3-0. So there wasn't much competition there, and the only competition they faced was a USA team, and they failed in that one miserably. I don't want to piss off any Germany fans, but this is something that the men's and women's team have done very well over the years in competitions, disappoint their home base. Let's hope they do it one more time.
Wow, Carm, that was a little bit of shade. And hey, you might not want to piss them off, but if they comment below, it still helps us out. So hop below in the comments and tell Carm how angry you are, you Germany fans. We would love to hear it. And while you're hanging out with us live, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe. And if you hit that little bell, you'll never miss when we go live here. If you're tuning in on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, hit that follow button. We would appreciate being in your timeline. So that one, again, folks, is going today, 1 o'clock Eastern time. The other quarterfinal is going to be France and Brazil. But as Carmine alluded to, half one, it looks like Colombia is up over Spain 1-0 there in the 23rd minute. And as Carm mentioned too, my United States women getting the job done after making us sweat a little bit. That one wrapping up against Japan, looking like a 1-0 final there as well. So that's setting up for some semi-final action. If you want plays in that, head on over to Carmine's page, wt.buzz/CB. Carm, before we talk a little Leagues Cup and roll with some of these questions, what do you have locked and loaded over at your page? Right before we came on, they hooked you up with one hell of a deal. And I think, I hope I can maybe get you to text me one or two plays, but 2 great sports, 1 great price.
Yes.
I'm going to get football and NHL. Hell, I might even buy it, Carm. Tell the folks about the deal you have.
No, as long as you don't mute me during the season, you get all the plays, Dan. That's the way it works. But
hey, at least you're not triggered.
now,
I had to institute, Carm, I had to institute a bell for trigger. So at least you're not at that level yet. So that's all good.
No,
but go ahead.
Nope. All good. So 3 plays in MLB with an early first pitch in one of them, and then 3 Leagues Cup games tonight. Tonight's a really good card, so I'm hoping that we can get some early winners today and carry it over to tonight and have a big Saturday. It was a very good July, a winning July, so I just want to carry that over. A good run to end July as well too, is 16-5-2 to end July. So just let's try and keep those going. And Missy and Melissa in our home office put this great deal together, NFL and NHL, the full seasons combined in one package. 2 years ago, number 1 in NHL. Last year was a down year, and I always talk about the bad along with the good. Last year in the NFL, a very good year for me, up over 76 units in the NFL, which was number 1 at WagerTalk. And I broke it down into categories, the 6 types of plays that I released last year: spread, totals, money lines, teasers, any future bets, or any props. Every single one finished plus money. So there were no losers in any category of the NFL last year. And I'm going to try and keep that going again this year. You get NHL and NFL all in one package over on my page or in the deal section at WagerTalk.
Carmine Bianco, wt.buzz/CB, quickest way you're going to get there. And Carmine Bianco, WT is how you can get at him at social. All right, Carm, let's talk some Leagues Cup. I mean, you and I were cashing in money hand over fist in MLS action, and then they have to throw water on it. And by the time the MLS comes back, these teams are going to look so different that we're going to have to restart our handicapping from the floor up. But in the meantime, we get to have some fun here with the Leagues Cup, and we got Inter Miami, the messy side that everyone knows and loves, against Tigres, who looked like they had their logo inspired a mix of LSU and UCLA. But the Tigres, nevertheless, are ready to rock here today. And Carmine, how do you think we should be betting this one?
Yeah, I kind of like that logo. It is pretty good, and you're right.
It's
It does have
sharp.
that LSU kind of feel to it, doesn't it? It does. But so this is an interesting one because everyone, if you're not listening to the coaches and the managers and checking to see what the importance of games are, you kind of miss it, and you look at Inter Miami and you think, well, I'm getting a great price with them. Everyone knows Lionel Messi's not going to play. He's just got out of his walking boot for the injured ankle. He didn't play in the first game. They won 2-0 in that one, and he's not going to play in this one. He's practicing, but he's not practicing with the team. He's practicing with trainers, so he's not in the lineup. The interesting thing here is this one's being played at Energy Stadium in Houston, Texas, and there's a huge fan base. It's probably one of the for Tigres, they're probably the most popular team amongst Houston fans in Texas. Tigres are. So there are going to be a lot of their fans at the game tonight. It should be a rocking one. This game, on the face of it, has no real importance to either team in the sense of both teams are into the knockout stages. They've already advanced. And you look at Inter Miami. Inter Miami is going to play at home, regardless of whether they win or lose. They're going to play um, either Pachuca or Toronto FC, who play tomorrow up here in Toronto. I'm going to likely go to that game as well too as a season ticket holder. So they already know they've got a home game coming up. So it's not as if they need to finish first in order to get a home game. That's not at play here. But more important than this is the manager, Tata Martinez, in his press conference said, the knockout stages are starting. We're going to be playing every 3 or 4 days. He goes, now is the time to get other players into the lineup and rest players. What does that tell you? That tells you that this line is probably going to move off of 107 for Tigres, and that plus money is going to disappear. Messi obviously isn't going to play. Suarez is said to be rested. And we're probably going to see other guys like Jordi Alba, Busquets, other guys that are important to this team rested because they don't need this win. They don't need this game. Of course, you always want to win their games, and they're the defending champions, but there is a reason why the line is where it is right now. And the minute the news comes out of players missing for this team, that line is just going to change. Getting the closing line value doesn't always work, but you want to get it at plus money instead of laying the minus 150 or minus 160 that it could very well hit. So we'll see when the lineups come out. But Tigres is the right play here. They are one of the best teams in Mexico, Liga MX. I put them right up there. It's them. It's Cruz Azul this year, and then obviously Club America, who have a bye into the knockout stages. Didn't have to go through the group stages because they finished with the most points over the last 2 Mexican soccer seasons, the Clausura and the Apertura.
So, Carm, I'm also wondering, one of the things that is one of the big things that I learned from you in soccer betting early is whenever you have some of these cups, we just came off of Copa, we just came off of Euros. One of the things that you're always looking to do is find hedge opportunities that sets you, ideally, once the championship rolls around, like, you're not having to sweat aside. You're kicking your feet up because of the opportunities that you set yourself up for futures. Before this started, did you fire any in? Do you potential see for anyone who maybe has had some futures in, any hedge opportunities on some plus money prices? Or is this kind of shaking out how the odds makers kind of expected and there isn't really much value to be gleaned in the futures market is really what I'm wondering, because these things, you always have to handicap them in a vacuum. And so much of it when you're talking about these competitions is trying to find some ways to get some good hedge opportunities. So for you, as the Leagues Cup stands here, anything stand out to you of teams that are going to be high and above the rest that maybe you're going a little bit under the radar that you can still get some good plus money on?
I'm looking at them right now as they popped up, and
Okay.
obviously the favorites right now are still Club America and Inter Miami. They were the 2 favorites coming into this at plus 800 and plus 850, and I get the Miami one, the Inter Miami one. It's regardless of what happens tonight, they are going to play, like I said, Toronto FC or Pachuca, and they are much better than both of those sides. So now they're into the next. They should win that one, and they could very well rest Messi for that game as well too, and have him come back healthy, because it's not just this tournament; it is the MLS regular season when that resumes and getting the team back to where they're playing. A couple of surprising ones as far as odds go that have gone a little bit the other way is LAFC. They were at plus 800 or 900. They're plus 1200 now. They'll make it into the knockout stages. There's a game tonight. Vancouver plays. Vancouver plays. For the life of me, Dan, let me just click on this for a second. Vancouver plays Club Tijuana. Sorry, on that one. And that game there, the Club Tijuana one, is one where right now, Club Tijuana would have to win that game in 90 minutes to leapfrog Vancouver. But LAFC are already into the knockout stages. So a team that is in first place in the knockout stages, for them to go from plus 800 down to plus 1200 or 14 or 1200, maybe the unimpressive play. They looked good in the first game. They didn't look good in the second game against Vancouver, but they did what they needed to do. They got their 4 points or 5 points, and they're on to the next round. The other surprising one, and this is one, Dan, that I just made double up on, is Cruz Azul. And I talked about Cruz Azul. I took a future on them at plus 1,200, and they are now plus 2,000. So 20 to 1 on this team. They are Charlotte is done. Charlotte has 2 points. Cruz Azul has 1 point. Philadelphia Union, your Philadelphia Union has 3. Cruz Azul will play Philadelphia in the next game. The one thing about these games, and we've seen a lot of Mexican teams struggle, and I'll explain to you why I think they're struggling, is at the beginning of the season, the MLS season, which is in February and March, the CONCACAF Champions League starts. Mexico's smack dab in the middle of their regular season. Everyone's in form. Everyone's in game shape. The MLS teams struggle because they're coming out of preseason and they've got to play these Mexican sides who are in mid-season form. The League's Cup is the reverse. You've got the MLS teams that are in mid-season form. They've already played 25 games. The new Mexican, the Liga MX season, the Apertura, are only 4 games in, and some of these teams have been off for 10 days. So they're going to look a little bad maybe in their first games, but their second games is where they pick it up. Cruz Azul played very good in their first game, couldn't get the job done in Charlotte, losing that one in penalties. But with a game under their belts now, I believe they're going to go into Philadelphia, win that game. The price is not out on that game as of yet, but I'll be taking them in that game and advance to the knockout stages. And this 20 to 1 is going to drop to under 10 to 1. So when you talk about grabbing a future now, it comes with a little bit of what happens if they don't win at Philadelphia. Well, your future bet is dead. But if they do win, you're going to beat the market on a move, and that's the move of Cruz Azul going from 20 to 1 just at DK. You might find a better price elsewhere to price that's under 10 to 1.
Carmine Bianco, WT.buzz/CB. And Carm, one more time for you. Soak it in, buddy. Maybe Eagles-Bills Super Bowl. We'll be sitting alongside each other for it. But yeah, one more time. You can soak in the banner behind me, Carm. But brother, we'll talk to you soon. Best of luck. Again, you can check Carm out over at WT.buzz/CB. I'll give you a closing statement, Carm. I won't mute you so that we can still be friends heading into the NHL season. The rebuttal from the senator from Toronto.
No, Dan, I have nothing bad to say. I do like one play, and you got to love this play. Come on. This is an NFL one. So I talked about the Atlanta yesterday. Atlanta division wins over 3.5 minus 120. The Eagles, okay, you got to lay $1.50. I get it. But Eagles over 3.5 division wins. I don't see how they don't cash that ticket. They are going to beat the Giants and the Commanders. They very well could sweep both teams. And then, of course, the Cowboys aren't coming. Dak is not coming to Philadelphia and beating the Eagles. It's not going to happen. So this could be one of those seasons where you guys get 5 wins within the division. You're going to win the division no matter what. But I would lay the $1.50 and take over 3.5 division wins with the Eagles, hands down.
Famous last words from my friend Carmine Bianco is they're going to win the division no matter what. So now Carm trying to reverse mush my team with a play here. But hey, I mean, no disagreement from me here. I mean, on paper, but on paper, they were supposed to not completely collapse at the back half of last year as well. We'll have plenty of time to talk some NFL. We won't have plenty of time to talk Olympic basketball because it's rolling to a close here. We got a game in action right now at halftime. Looking like the USA is continuing the most underwhelming run. It's coming out at the half there, or coming out of quarter 2. United States, Puerto Rico. United States is down. Steve Merril, welcome in, my man. 2 R's, 1 L. We hang out all week long on First Pitch. I get you here on weekend. Yeah, it has been upside down. I see what you're doing there, but this one, as far as it goes, is in game. So obviously, people probably rushing the flood of bets, like when Circa flood. I'm sure when the USA goes down. But hey, sure, they're winning the games. That's all you can ask them to do. And covering as well. But This is a long cry from the dream team, I guess we could say, Steve. What do you think about this game, how it's shaken out thus far, and some potential ways that people can bet this live action USA men's taking on Puerto Rico?
Yeah, on paper, you said on paper, it's a dominant team, and they were a 35-point favorite on paper,
So
and they're
true.
losing after the first quarter, 29-25. WagerTalk live odds screen actually has it 30-25 right now, but they took away a 3 here at the buzzer, and it's 29-25 going into the second quarter. So it's actually not near the half. It's just started the second quarter, Dan. So a little something for the live viewers here on WagerTalk. Last call at 11:40 a.m. Eastern here on Saturday. Just a benefit to watching the show live. Click subscribe, click that bell for instant alerts. What's crazy, though, the in-game line. USA was a 36-point favorite pregame. They're down by 4. The in-game line going into the second quarter was still 24.5, which means they had to outscore Puerto Rico by 29 these last 3 quarters. I don't know what to make of the USA. I didn't really have an opinion on the side in this game. I liked them against South Sudan the other day. I gave that out free here on a video, gave it out to my clients, and I learned my lesson. I'm not messing with this U.S. team anymore. A South Sudan team that was a 43-point dog 2 weeks ago had the final shot to win. The USA stole a 1-point win. You thought that would be motivation to lay it on them. Well, they're up by 19 at the half against South Sudan, looking pretty good. They got outscored in the second half. They got outscored in the second half by South Sudan. To put this in perspective, South Sudan has been a nation less years than LeBron, Curry, and Durant have played in the NBA since 2011. Those guys have played in the NBA longer than South Sudan has been a country when they broke off from Sudan. So this USA team finds a way to underachieve. You can say, well, they take their foot off the gas in the second half when the bench is out there. The bench was Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, and Bam Adebayo, the 3 best scorers in the game, and they still got outscored in the second half. So this is a wake-up call here. They're going to win this game. Durant just hit a 3 to give them the lead here, so this will probably be the lead, and they'll hold on. But I don't know what to do with this team, and I don't think it's looking good. You can't just turn it on. Germany beat France by double digits yesterday. France was my dark horse being at home, and I think Canada's dangerous. The USA, by the way, did beat Canada by 14 in an exhibition and covered. I don't know, though, man. You and I have been following sports long enough to know that you can't just turn it on when you want to. One final thought here on Olympic basketball. Back in 1992, when the Dream Team started, I believe there was either 6 or maybe 9 total NBA players on all the other teams. This year, there's over 60 NBA players on all the other teams in the Olympics. So it is a different game now.
Yeah, and Steve, watching this team, I've stayed away. Like, once I saw that South Sudan, I was like, I can't bet on this team for them. I can't bet on them against them. But I like tuning in, watching this team. And it just seems to me that the difference between a dream team and how dominant the USA has been in years past is it's always been a superstar, studded lineup, the who's who in the NBA. But this year, it just feels like everyone wants to be the guy. And there's just no cohesion from the top to bottom because all of these guys want to be the guy. So it wasn't like when Kobe got to be the point and then everything funneled down from that. LeBron wants to take over at the end of the game. And then no, is it Steph Curry who's going to take the shot? Like, it doesn't really seem like there's much direction from a leadership perspective. And I think that starts with the coach. Like, no one's towed the line on this team. And I think that's why they're just out there playing street ball, not playing to win the Olympics. You know, and again, because of the talent, they can overcome that, Steve. But if they get caught on an off night and they keep trying to just do the ISO ball, not playing with any fluidity, that's the night that they're going to get caught. And everyone who poured money in on that future is going to die resoundingly. And I think Canada could be the team to do that to them. Just any thoughts on this team moving forward? Because this game kind of is in a vacuum. Yes, they can be dominant when they want to be, but there's also just zero cohesion, even when they are being dominant.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico just tied it up here with 8 minutes to go in the second quarter. And what jumped up even in the first quarter here is what you're talking about, is they gave up 70% shooting. Now, yes, Puerto Rico was 5 for 7 from three-point range in the first quarter, but they were almost 70% from two-point range. And as you know, Dan, in any sport, defense is intensity, right? And these guys just aren't playing defense. It's kind of like it's an NBA All-Star game, all offense, no defense. Everybody wants the ball, like you said. So that's something I think is going to hurt them. I'm not a fan of Steve Kerr. I loved it when he played. But the more he's been a coach over the years, the more he's opened his mouth about world events. I've liked Steve Kerr even less. I honestly don't think he's a very sharp mentally individual. Some of the stuff he said off court has made me feel that way. So I'm not big on him as the head coach here. I'm with you on that. He has also said that these being 40-minute games instead of 48, you can't get more than 10 guys in. So let's look at the rotation. Tatum sits, and then he starts. Embiid started almost all the exhibition games, started the Serbia game, did not play a minute against South Sudan, and he was supposed to start tonight. So I do think in the prop market, we can kind of pick our spots maybe and find some opportunities. And I mentioned those in my standalone videos. And by the way, I will continue to do standalone videos on all these Team USA games all the way through the gold medal games. So I do think we could pick our spots with some props, but I'm with you. Very difficult team to handicap from a side perspective. When they didn't bring it against South Sudan in what I thought was a focused blowout spot, all bets were off for me going forward.
Yeah, and we got a couple comments. Mac Hudson pointing out here, hey, with the 40-minute game, probably going to be a little bit harder to cover a 30-point spread, a 30-point spread. I somewhat agree with that, but still.
Serbia did it.
That
they beat it by 41.
Yeah.
So they beat Serbia by 26. And then Serbia beats Puerto Rico by 41. So once again, that's what basic 101, that's 67 is what the margin should be, right? So that's what's kind of crazy. And by the way, Serbia plays South Sudan at 3 o'clock Eastern. We probably should talk about that game because that's a bettable game here for even people on the replay. We've seen some money coming on South Sudan today. It's gone from 14.5 down to 13. Not a surprise. I would say, hey, I love to fade the public. I don't have public consensus data on this stuff, but I would have to think South Sudan is probably the public side here. But I'm not sure I disagree. They're a scrappy team, and they've hung with the USA, so why can't they hang with Serbia? And by the way, the winner of this game advances. It's a huge game, and South Sudan has a chance to advance because 2 of the 3 third-place finishers will advance as well, and they're going to finish third at worst here. On SportsGrid last night, Dan, I mentioned the under in this game, under 179. It's been steamed down to 177, 176.5. So the sharp money is definitely on the under in this game. And there's money on South Sudan, but I have a feeling that might be more public money.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Again, like you said, it's going to be hard to find a Fade the Public video from Steve Merril on Serbia and South Sudan. But there's a little taste of it, and Fade the Public will be coming your way this football season. We got a couple things we're going to be cooking up with Steve. So as Steve said, more reasons than ever to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed. Shout out to Los Kid 82 in the chat. He's saying Canada has the second most NBA players in the LeBron kryptonite. Dylan Brooks, the LeBron kryptonite. Good digging there from our man Los Kid. Also says the USA team performing for the books more than the gold. Well, got to do a little bit better on both of those ends, I guess we could say. Steve, let's swing it to the diamond. If anyone else has any other questions here on the hardwood, you can keep them coming. You have some questions in MLB action. Steve is one of the best at running down the board here for you. So you can definitely check him out over at WagerTalk. But right here, we're going to talk some games. Let's start with Mets Angels. Steve, you got to break down for the folks in this one. How are you looking to bet it?
Yeah, we'll get to it. Real quick, I wanted to point out, this slide for the U.S. has continued for 20 years. The last time they played Puerto Rico in the Olympics was 20 years ago, and Puerto Rico beat them outright by 19. And the U.S. got the bronze that year. They've gotten 1 silver, 1 bronze. So they've been beaten in other Olympics, including 20 years ago this month. So It's not like this is something new. These other nations have caught up to them, and I think it's something to keep in mind. That's why, yes, the Dream Team was great, but they also were playing children, basically. It was man against boys, literally, back then in 92.
Fair.
Hey, man against boys, the Mets and the Angels, right? L.A., New York would be a spotlight series if it was Dodgers, Yankees. This is kind of the AAA version, I guess. But the New York Mets have been pretty strong here in recent months. We all know the Grimace catalyst that got them going. By the way, the Angels, Mike Trout announced out for the rest of the season this week. He's only played 20-some games. Dan, this is the 3rd year out of the last 4, which he will not play more than 82 games, basically a half season in Major League Baseball. And by the way, hey, throw this in the live chat right now and let Dan know what you think. I put this in a spotlight video yesterday. Is Mike Trout Hall of Fame right now? He's obviously a Hall of Fame talent. That's not the question. But does he get in the Hall of Fame? How many more years does he need to play? How many more games does he have to play? Because I think he has to play several more seasons, as limited as he's been recently. We'll see how that plays out. The Angels did get the Mets got them yesterday 5-1. I get it, free play videos I mentioned. I liked the Mets last night. As you know, Dan, I love to play game 1 road favorites on Friday. It just set up as a good spotlight situation. Maybe the Angels bounce back here today, but I think the Mets are the play here until I see otherwise. Anaheim's offense is struggling. They only managed 1 run against Colorado a couple days ago. They only managed 1 run last night. And I just don't think anything changes here. The Mets are only about a minus $1.25 favorite. Keep an eye on the Mets here. And if you want to get my official best bets for tonight, for Saturday. They're on the page right now with a bonus free play, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And don't forget also, get the rest of August for free when you buy September and October right now. That's an all-sports special as well. So I like the Mets in this game. And if you want a bonus free play and some best bets for free for August, check out my page, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Steve, this is a game that we touched upon earlier. And again, check out stevewt.buzz/SM. We talked about the Mariners and Phillies at the top, but as you know, people are coming in and they're heading on out. So Ross Benjamin was on the side of the M's. We have Eric D, a Philly homer, much like myself in the chat, loyal viewer there. We appreciate you. He's saying, I told him, welcome to the dark side, because he's finally fading the Phillies. He said, I got a lock for tonight, Seattle money line against the Phillies. Steve, the reason why I want to bring this game up is not so we can all just say, hey, go hammer the Mariners and hey, look at how horrible the Phillies have been, because I think we've documented that enough. I bring this game up because early on in the season, when the Phils were on a roll and you and I were doing first pitch, we were like, they cannot keep this up. They cannot sustain this. And we kept getting made out to be liars. And I don't know if I expected the downturn to be this resounding, Steve. So I think there are brighter days on the horizon. But when you have Harper swinging out of his shoes, he leaves bases juiced against the Yankees. He's like on a 0-for-22 stretch, it feels like. I mean, this is just something that we kind of thought was coming, but I didn't know if it would be so rock bottom like it's been, man. They can't figure it out in the bullpen. The starting pitching leaves them, and they're just leaving runners stranded when they finally do get the bats going. So thoughts, I guess, just high level about these Phillies team. And do you agree with the consensus? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, just fading them.
Yes. I mean, it's a 162 game season, and momentum is a huge aspect of baseball, both good and bad. And we all know that no team's going to win 70% of their games. No team's going to lose 70%. Oh, wait, the White Sox might this year. That's how bad they are, by the way. They're below 30%. Next closest is like the Rockies at 39%. So there's always maybe one extreme outlier. And the Phillies could have been that team this year. And by the way, they're a very good team. I mean, 3 of the 4 starting infielders in the All-Star team with Phillies. They got 2 of the best pitchers in baseball this year, 2 or 3 of the better starters. So they're a loaded team, but it's so hard, especially when you're extending that lead in your division and running away with it. We knew they would regress at some point. But let me ask you this, Dan, because you follow them closer than anybody. Is usually there's a catalyst. And like, I thought that trip back from London would be it, right? Or maybe the All-Star break. So maybe it was the All-Star break. And yes, they had a lot of guys in that game, like I mentioned. So I think maybe that's where the slump has happened. It's just a little bit of a halftime lull. You know, I coach a lot of youth baseball, and we have a little 30-minute break between double headers. And after this past weekend, true story, the coach and I, 2 weeks in a row, we've won the first game and played awful in the second game. And even I get sleepy because they have a damn buffet like picnic in between games. And we've decided and the coach and I talked about this last Sunday. I go, we're not doing this anymore. They're not leaving the dugout. They can have a granola bar and that's it. So what do you think the catalyst is here? I mean, is it just a little bit of a second half hangover after the All-Star break?
No, I'll be honest with you, Steve. I think it's just that they were never, I mean, it's the old sports betting axiom, right? No one's ever as good as they are. No one's ever as bad as they are. I just think the Phillies were insanely overexceeding. They were catching a lot of teams in perfect spots for them as well. And they got it rolling and became this big mythos of a Phillies baseball team that was just mowing through teams against bad baseball clubs. And then when it continued against good baseball clubs, people were like, oh, this must be for real. This team is just absolutely rolling. But you never want to peak that early. And it's what I said with Ross. I was telling Phillies fans, I was telling friends, family, I was like, this isn't the time that you want them to be rolling. It's great because they stacked wins and they put themselves in a good position. You know, they will be a playoff team, but will the Mets catch them? I mean, that's something to hop below in the comments and let us know what you think. You know, did a lot of pundits here in Philadelphia said, oh, it's already locked up. This team is just absolutely rolling. Get the pennants ready to print. And that's just not baseball. That's not betting a 162-game season. So the one thing that stood out to me when you asked the catalyst, Steve, was even when the Phillies were rolling, if you watched the body language of Bryce Harper, there was something that if you're the best team in baseball and your star isn't having fun playing, there's something there. I don't know if it's the monumental pressure that he feels like he's under delivering. I don't know what it could be, but that was always just a little piece of this whole Phillies thing that I was wondering, Bryce, who's usually an animated guy, There has to be something below the surface going on there. And again, it's not actionable info, so we can move on from it. But I think a great conversation is why do these things happen?
I think it's very actionable. I'm looking right now. They're 3-10 since the All-Star break. They were 1-1 right before that. In fact, right before the break, they lost their last game, and they had won 4 or 5 before that. So they went 4-1.
And it was to the A's.
Right. Well, they lost the junk game to the A's, 2 of the 3 to the A's. You're right. Who've been playing well, by the way. They were a small dog to the Dodgers yesterday. They've gone 3-10, I believe, since the All-Star break. And I thought about that Tuesday night, Dan, when they're talking over and over again. 3 of the 4 starting infielders are Philadelphia Phillies, a couple starting pitchers. I'm like, that's really incredible. I think that's what the catalyst was. I think it's just that halftime picnic hangover that I'm talking about. And I think they will. What you want to look for, though, is you want to look for the buy side, right? You're not trying to catch that falling knife because your Phillies right now are a falling knife. But by the way, 3 of the previous 4 losses before last night were by 1 run. And you remember, you and I talked about this last month. They were winning a lot of games with like 6 or 7 hits. And that's why we thought that regression was coming sooner. But it's just like the stock market. I've been waiting for the stock market to drop. But I've learned over the years that I'm not trying to time it. I need to see confirmation. Go back and look at the S&P the last 2 days. Boom, boom, down because of some bad news on the employment reports, Japan. My point is, wait for that turn. We've seen that turn with Philly. Don't try to catch the falling knife. Let it bottom. Let it cool off a little bit. They will get hot again, and they'll probably be good value when they do so.
Yeah, and hopefully for this Philly homer, it's closer towards September and October. that fire starts to catch. That's Steve Merril, WT.buzz/SM. I asked some folks, who do you think could potentially be catching the Phillies? Is that race over? Mac Hudson saying the Bravos might catch them. They'll be getting some pieces back, and luckily for them, Steve, they get to play Miami and keep playing against them. The price is insane, though. -250. I can't bet this one, but since Mac brought up the team, any thoughts here? Bravos, Miami, or how to bet that team moving forward as they get some pieces back?
Yeah, obviously it's too juicy for me as well. I'm not going to touch this. If you are going to play it, you got to use Braves run line, get it down. But the problem is they're on the road, so you're still laying good juice even at -1.5. I do think Braves big picture have some value, though. Adam Trigger said on the shows the last couple of days he's fading the Braves. He thinks they're not going to make the playoffs. And that might happen. They're only 2 games up in the wild card right now. But what I like that they did is they picked up Soler, part 2. And history doesn't always repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And in 2021, Acuna was out for the rest of the season. They were actually below 500. And they picked up Soler. They go on to win the World Series. He gets World Series MVP. They're now 11 games above 500. They're better now than they were in 21. They're once again without Acuna. They pick up Soler. Could definitely be a spark for this team, and I think it has been so far. They've won 6 out of 10. By the way, you talked about the Phillies playing tougher teams now. They are 30-26 this year against winning teams. The Braves are 38-32, so the Braves have a better record against winning teams. The Mets are just 31-32, so I do think the Braves are the team more likely to catch them, and that's a big picture thing we can talk about as well. The Houston Astros had that slow start. They've had a nice run since. They're 22-29 against winning teams, so I like where you went with that with the Phillies, and I think that's something that gets lost in baseball is that a lot of times you get fortunate and you play 2 or 3 or 4 series against bad teams, and all of a sudden you've played 12 games against weaker teams, and it makes your record look a lot better and your current hot streak look a lot better than it really is.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Steve. Couldn't have said it better myself. We'll touch upon 1 or 2 more here before we shut things down and get folks on their way for a Saturday. Los Kid has a legacy game incoming here. He's going to officially be done betting baseball if the Rockies win again. It's Perez for the Padres, a starter who hasn't picked up a win on the year here for the Rockies. Should San Diego Padres here, Perez and Gordon are the starters. The huge price on the Padres, but what do you think? Live dog again, Steve? Should our man Los be worried that he might not be betting baseball anymore?
Yes. Hey, look, we talk about fade the public information. It's hard for me to get it on baseball a lot of times because it's a money line sport. But no offense, Los. I mean, if you're that gung-ho that this is the lock of the century, that the Rockies can't win again, you're getting me very intrigued on this ugly underdog now. We've joked about it all week. But, I'm watching a lot of Olympics. They do the announcer jinx all the time. I talked about this on several shows this week, how the Rockies are so bad on the road versus at home. Their home-road dichotomy has been extreme for years. It makes sense because they build this team to compete in the altitude. Half their games are in altitude, so they build them for Coors Field. 24-29 at home this year. I think they were like 14-41. Now they're 17-41. They've won 3 straight. So here again, you don't want to fight that momentum. What's the opposite of a falling knife? Maybe a speeding bullet. Try to dodge that speeding bullet or get behind that speeding bullet. It's funny because the Rockies are going to win some more road games, and it looks like that little mini run is coming right now. And isn't it ironic that it's at Petco, which is one of the most pitcher-friendly parks, when Coors Field's the most hitter-friendly park? I'm not looking to fade a dog that has won 3 straight and is playing decent baseball right now. And last night was a 5-2 win. It was a legitimate win. The SA beat the Angels a couple games before that, but I'd be careful saying they can't win another one because they're a terrible road team. But if you look throughout the season, and the White Sox did this, remember how bad the White Sox were? What were they, 3-22 to start the season? And then over a for like a 1 week span, they had the best record in baseball, Dan. And then they lost like 14 straight after that. So just like your Phillies, wait for them to get hot. Just like the Rockies now, wait for them to cool off again.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it, Steve. And that's betting baseball. That's for darn sure. So, Steve, shout out to the chat. Obviously, they've been giving us some great questions all day long here. Jesse Schul chiming in with a free play in the chat. Padres team total over. This starter for Colorado is just bad. I love when they KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. They're just bad. Bet the over. Steve, you have any other game that stood out to you here on the MLB card? Obviously, you have some premium plays up for clients, but as far as any just breakdowns to send the folks into the weekend on, Orioles Guardians, kind of an intriguing game. We already talked about the Giants and Reds. That was one that Ross touched upon there. You alluded to the A's, who are playing much better. They're going to be opposing Flaherty. Any games that stood out to you here on the MLB slate before we shut things down?
So I'm going to post a free play here right after the show on my page. So I recommend everybody go there, check out the best bets, check out the free August special, and check out the daily free play in baseball. One that I might be using as a free play, I'll give it to everybody first here on the show, is the under in the Twins White Sox. 7.5, Dan. That's a key number. Always look to play under 7.5s. Crochet is on the mound for the White Sox. He was not traded. I don't know if we'll get the Snell effect, but let's keep in mind, Blake Snell was not traded by the Giants when everybody thought he would be. And for those that didn't see last night, he threw a 9-inning no-hitter. I just love the fact he got to stay in for 9 innings. It was nice. He was about 110 pitches or so. Crochet will not stay in for 9 innings because this is the guy that's already thrown more pitches than he's thrown his entire career as a converted reliever off Tommy John surgery recently. There might be a point in which we can fade Crochet, and I'm glad teams didn't trade for him because I think he's a little bit of a ticking time bomb. But I think he's fresh right now, and we get a good outing. I'm not ballsy enough to back him, though, outright, but I think the under 7.5 is worth a play here in this Twins-White Sox game as Crochet brings his A game, which he's definitely capable of doing.
Yeah, and you should have time to get in on that. We're actually seeing some juice towards the over, so an advantageous price on an ugly number in an ugly baseball game. That's what we do here on WagerTalk Last Call. At Last Call at the bar, Steve, you never know what's going to be around the bar. Sometimes it is the ugly Twins and Chicago White Sox matchup.
2 a.m. You didn't know people were there for the past hour that you never would have hung out with. My goodness.
Lights turn on. You're like, whoo. Man, that's the White Sox. That definitely is the White Sox.
Exactly
there.
Right. You got to kick them out the next morning.
Steve,
my goodness.
Steve, always a pleasure, man. Love doing these shows with you. Thanks for filling in for me when I was out.
Buddy.
We greatly appreciate it. Football right around the corner. And Steve, just one more time, let the folks know with those August deals. I mean, this is a great time if you haven't tried us out before. You get a little taste of it here on the shows of how these handicappers approach it. Steve Merril, he's kind of like a financial market type guy. You really get to pick and choose. You got prop guys like Andy Lang, soccer guys, stuff that you and I would never touch. You can get with Carmine and Bianco. So this is just a great time to check it out. And in August, we got all these deals rolling through. Just tell folks if they've never tried it out before, what they can kind of expect, not just from you, but with the WagerTalk family.
Yeah, you see right there, you get 2 months. You can buy 2 months, which is basically buying September and October. You get August for free. And yes, look, you have until the 11th. So what? You got another week. Be like me. I'm a big procrastinator, man. I put stuff off. But why put that off? Because the sooner you get that special, the more days of August you get for free. You've already missed the first and second days of August. Get the next 29 days of August for free when you buy September and October. It's buy 2, get 3. It's quite simple. Almost a $300 discount instantly, $299 to be exact. Like you said, I'm a numbers guy. But here's the deal. You're going to get almost half the college football season, about a third of the NFL season, the rest of baseball into the World Series, the end of October. And yeah, you're going to get some basketball. No, it's not going to be Olympic basketball, which we flip a coin, Team USA, Puerto Rico. I couldn't find my Puerto Rican flag. But seriously, you're going to get the start of the NBA season as well, the rest of baseball, half the football, college, and pro season. 4 of the 5 major sports that I cover, you're getting the next 3 months. And August is free. So don't delay. Get on board right now this weekend and get my Saturday Night Baseball best bets as well. So don't wait any longer. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, and you can get there quicker with shortcut WT.buzz/SM. And don't forget about the free daily baseball play for tonight as well.
As Steve said, WT.buzz/SM, get at him there and give him a thanks for being on the show. You can also hop below in the comments and let him know the thanks. Let us know what your best bet is today. I don't know where else on the internet in just over an hour. You're getting Olympic soccer, Olympic basketball, all the MLB plays that you could possibly need. Tell folks about us. That's right. Wager Talk last call coming your way all the way through the football season. Think about how juicy this is going to get leading into college football Saturday. We ain't going anywhere. If anything, we're ramping up at Wager Talk. So hit that bell, hit that subscribe button, and on the way out, hit the like. Big thanks to Steve Merril, Ross Benjamin, Carmine Bianco. Big thanks to you making us a part of your Saturday into the afternoon with your Saturday morning. Who needs cartoons and cereal when you can have day drinking and sports betting here with Wager Talk last call? I've been Dan Alexander. We'll be back locked and loaded with live programming coming your way Monday morning. Until then, best of luck, folks, and we'll see you next time here on Wager Talk TV.